descended almost 60 miles into Allied territory from a
Parkerizing, or phosphating, is a chemical conversion coating developed in 1906, but wasn't used much on firearms until the advent of World War II. Parkerizing was developed by William Alexander Ross and Thomas Watts Coslett in England, but their technique was crude and utilized iron instead of the now common zinc or manganese styles. Around 1915, Clark W. Parker of the Parker Company acquired the patents and improved on the formula, and around 1928 developed a more modern formula utilizing manganese. Improvements by the Parker Company continued well into 1941, where Parkerizing found a comfortable home in World War II, protecting soldiers' firearms from rust. Parkerizing is an electrochemical reaction that creates a layer of crystalline phosphates on the surface of the metal. The process etches microscopic pores into the metal. These pores retain oil, which helps protect the firearm's metal and adds an element of lubricity. Over time, the Parkerizing starts to break down. Here's fresh Parkerizing. The peaks, valleys, and pores are strong. Here's Parkerizing after some time. The peaks have started to degrade and become rounded. Finally, here's a rifle that has nearly exposed metal. Barely any of the original etching can be seen. There are two formulas of Parkerizing solutions. One utilizes manganese and the other zinc. Manganese produces a dark finish, oftentimes almost black, and generally is considered to hold oil better than zinc. The zinc formula produces a lighter color, often gray, and a very good surface for paint to adhere to. While the formula does play an important role in color of the rifle, the alloy and hardness of the steel being Parkerized plays nearly as important of a role. Certain alloys will come out lighter than others. Even on the same rifle, some parts may be black and others a light gray. If a uniform finish is desired, a paint may be more appropriate. Like all finishes, Parkerizing requires care and preparation. The parts should be sandblasted, cleaned, and then cleaned again. Preparation of the solution is key. I use Brownell's Parkerizing solution. The first step is to mix the concentrate with water. The solution calls for 114 ounces of water and 14 ounces of concentrate. The easiest way I found to do this was remove 14 ounces of water from 1 gallon of water and replace it with Parkerizing solution. Now it's important to note that clean distilled water should be used so as to not contaminate the Parkerizing solution, which could negatively affect the finish on the firearm. The next step is seasoning the solution. This step only needs to be done once before the first job. Seasoning ensures the first firearm to go in the finish gets a healthy coating of Parkerizing. Without seasoning, the solution is weak and deposits a weak coating. There are many schools of thought about seasoning, but I will generally degrease 2 quadruple-aught steel wools and allow them to sit in the solution at or close to temperature for an hour. After that, they can be removed and the solution is seasoned. Don't be surprised to see small white flakes floating around. Those flakes are normal and part of the solution. Preparing the parts begins by sandblasting with 60 to 100 grit glass beads or silica sand. You can also use 120 grit silicon carbide or fine aluminum oxide. Others have had good luck using a Scott Murray wheel with a 60 grit belt. I've never tried this technique, so I can't speak to how well it works. The idea behind abrading the surface is to increase the overall surface area of the metal, so the Parkerizing has more area to work. Now it's important to protect critical surfaces like the chamber and bore from sandblasting. Electrical tape on the bolt lugs and other critical surfaces should provide adequate protection from blasting. It is also important to protect the chamber and bore from the Parkerizing itself. Parkerizing may allow a premature buildup of carbon in the chamber and premature corrosion from the electro-etching process. Wooden dowels can be whittled to fit the chamber and bore of the rifle, taking special care to not cover any areas that you wish Parkerized. After the parts are abraded, it's important to degrease the parts well. Some people use a chemical dip to prepare the parts. I wipe the parts down several times with non-chlorinated brake parts cleaner to ensure that there is no grease, and I've never had a problem with the finish when using this technique. The parts are now ready for Parkerizing. The next step is to heat the Parkerizing solution at temperature. The working temperature can vary from brand to brand, but the Brownell solution calls for a temperature somewhere between 190 and 195 degrees Fahrenheit. Higher temperatures do nothing but increase sludge and water evaporation. Safety precautions should be taken. A rubber apron and gloves along with a face shield and respirator should be worn. The process should also be done in a well-ventilated area. Once the parkerizing solution has reached temperature, you can add your parts. Many prefer to preheat the parts close to temperature by immersing the parts in a hot water bath. I have tried both preheating and just placing the parts directly in the solution. I personally saw no difference, but that doesn't mean one doesn't exist on the microscopic scale. Once the parts are in, they will begin to emit small bubbles. Parts should sit in the solution for about 15 minutes and then placed into a running water bath. A light scrubbing with a soft brush helps remove any stubborn phosphate residue. The parts should then be thoroughly dried and a heavy coat of water-displacing oil, like WD-40, placed on the parts. Check the parts periodically as they will absorb the oil. Continue to oil the parts until they no longer absorb the oil. Then wait 24 hours to reassemble the firearm. I hope you found this video helpful. Thanks for watching.